Hey, everybody. Today we're debating whether or not Islam is true, and we are starting right now with Muhammad's opening statement. Thanks so much for being with us, Muhammad. The floor is all yours.
Thank you, James, and hello, everybody. I'm here to put the position on why Islam is true. I'm going to approach the debate in a different tactic than what people usually understand of what Islam is, because people quickly run to the curriculum of Muhammad and the way Muhammad understood Islam and told the world about Islam. But I want to start with by saying that God indeed took Abraham as his best friend. Therefore, we can conclude that God, who created the skies and land and everything in between, accepted the actions and inputs from Abraham, along with his sincerity and loyalty, and thus became the benchmark to everyone after him. If a man succeeds in a capitalistic market and becomes affluent, people want to know their recipe so that they can achieve the same success. Abraham achieved an unpassed success as a human being. Therefore, one should learn from the way of Abraham to achieve the same success. The state of peace and submission that Abraham had, which led to his success both here and the hereafter, made such a butterfly effect in the history so that his children after him were inspired divinely and naturally to find that mentality and path that Abraham took. Being accepted by God is gauged by how the natural, supernatural, seen, and unseen world reacts to you along with your decisions. The mentality, the reasoning, and the approach that Abraham had is what submission is, and that is what Islam means. Moses, David, Jesus, and Muhammad all invited to that state of submission and became influential and were granted a clear authority over all opposing mentalities and teachings. Due to the input of those individuals in the world, which was multiplied and endorsed by God, certain schools and curriculums came from their teaching, which is based on building a community to serve God. As God states in the Quran, the closest to Abraham are those who followed him, and this prophet, Muhammad, and the believers. أولى للناس في إبراهيم الذين اتبعوه وهذا النبي والمؤمنون. That's the verse from the Quran. By definition, Islam is the submission to God and the will of God. When presented with choices, which we all are presented with choices on a regular basis, one is confident that the help of God Himself, directly or through a medium like an angel or His stated words that were stated before, would give them the correct decision. Therefore, the decision is not based on impulse, desires, or what the human wants. Rather, they make the decision based on what the truth is, on what's best for them, and what is around, all derived from God's wisdom. Stating that Muhammad's curriculum is the best curriculum in achieving the state of peace with God is proven by looking at what the Quran is teaching and then understanding the roots of what the Prophet, peace be upon him, derived from the Quran. A true submitter forbids immoralities and invites people to give favor, to go above and beyond expectations. As God states in chapter 98 in the Quran, they were not ordered anything except to serve God sincerely, to pray, and to give alms or to give from what they were given. As you see, the instructions of submission are very simple. Yet, as someone who ponders upon themselves and the creation around them, a human is a communal being, driven by community and society, because on an individual level, the human is lonely and weak. If the truth is that you're a small piece of wood and the world in front of you is a flame, you have the choice to put yourself to use or stand by and rot with no purpose. Mind you, the fire is burning with or without you. Islam is you believing the truth and doing your part. As God states in the Quran, that God created life and death to test us on which one of us are the best workers or who's the one who's putting the most effort in the world that belongs to God. I can first foresee my opponent attacking Sunnism and the ideas that came with certain Sunni political leaders who take certain verses and certain sayings and twist them to further their personal agenda. A modern day example is the leader, there's a sheikh, a leader of the sacred house in Mecca, Sheikh Saleh al Talib. And mind you, to be a leader in such an honorable place isn't an easy achievement by any means. This man was jailed due to a sermon he did criticizing how the Muslim world is allowing foreign liberal ideas to poison the community. The ruling party that claims to be Muslim jailed that man. The point that I'm making is unjust and evil leaders existed not only in the last century, but ever since the departure of Muhammad, peace and blessings upon him, and twisted the religion and attributed things to God and his messengers which are not accurate. There is Sunnat al-Nabi, or the way of the tradition of the prophets, peace be upon them, and then there's Sunnat Allah, the way in the tradition of God. The tradition of God is very simple to grasp. And in the spirit of real Islam, I would like to warn the West of a simple concept because as a Muslim, it's our duty to warn. The tradition of God goes as follows. God gives a blessing to a nation and allows them to grow, conquer, expand, and pretty much inherit their surroundings. Said nation becomes so powerful, they begin to feel that they cannot be defeated. They attribute success and power from themselves rather than their creator. This arrogance is then shown by how said nation begins to oppress others and themselves, based on lies and demonization tactics with sole purpose to sustain their size materialistically. They silence or kill anyone who reminds them of justice, honesty, awareness, intellect, reason, and proofs, all the attributes that the Quran constantly reminds us of. They get a clear reminder and warning that those who oppressed before them are not around. And at this point, very little people believe, while the majority just laughs it off. God saves the believers and destroys said nation. As a person who is from the seed of Abraham and the nation of God, we have seen so many nations and ideas like the Pharaohs, Greek, Romans, Mongols, Persian, Byzantines, Nazis, Vikings, Ottomans, communists come and go over multiple millenniums. But the Jews, Christians, Muslims, and their belief in a single God, the God of Abraham and the way of Abraham, which is submission, did not perish. So America, who has been demonizing Islam for the last 20 years, might be here for now, but it won't be here tomorrow. Yet Islam and the idea of Islam is here now, and submission will be here tomorrow. So in a world where the reality is that the survivor is the one who matters, Islam is always the survivor. Therefore, the ideology of Islam is not only true, but it's also king. And that's all I have to say.
You got it. Thank you very much for that opening statement from Muhammad. And we're going to kick it over to Apostate Prophet. But first, I want to let you know, folks, if it's your first time here at Modern Day Debate, we are a neutral channel hosting debates on science, religion, and politics. We hope you feel welcome no matter what walk of life you are from. And hey, if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button as we have many more debates coming up. So for example, at the bottom right of your screen, King Crocoduck comes out of retirement to debate David McQueen, Creation Evolution. It's going to be a big one later this month. You don't want to miss it. Hit that subscribe button. And with that, Apostate Prophet, thanks for being with us. The floor is all yours for your opening as well.
Thank you so much, James. And thank you, Mohammed, for that opening statement. I want to share my screen so I can show my presentation, which I do through here and through here, I believe. Yeah, okay. Is it visible?
It is.
Fantastic. So what do we mean when we say Islam is true? As you can see on this picture, there are a lot of very enthusiastic people down here that cling onto the Kaaba and want to follow the truth. People say that Islam is very simple, that it's about believing in one God, in Muhammad as a messenger and all of that. But if we want to really find out what Islam is, we have to go further than just those ideas. It is true. In order to become part of Islam, you have to say there is no God but Allah and Muhammad is the messenger of Allah. That's how you are officially a Muslim. And people often want to make it look like that's what it is all about, but it's not really. There is so much more. For example, there are essential Islamic claims like that Allah is the same God of the Bible, that Muhammad is the final messenger of Allah, that that Muhammad is a perfect guide, that the Quran is sorry, I just got a little bit distracted here. The Quran is the direct word of Allah, and that humans must follow Islam absolutely, otherwise they will go to hell. And with these basic points, there's of course so much more. There's a lot more that must be established in order to come to the conclusion that Islam is true. For example, based on these, if we look at everything that the Quran offers and that Muhammad offers, we get the idea that everything in the Quran is true according to the Quran. that in the beginning there was only Allah and nothing else. Fine, we cannot really, argue against that. His throne was on the water. This is what the Quran explicitly says, and Muhammad says it in traditions too. So before Allah created the heavens and the earth, his throne was above the water. We can discuss the details of that later in length. He then created and spread the earth above the water, which he created for us humans to walk on. He also put mountains into this earth, by the way, so that the earth doesn't shake with us, as the Quran says. Then he created 7 heavens above us. So, he creates the earth for us, and then he creates 7 heavens above us. If you're noticing that the background of it looks like a very mythical, nice, flat earth with strange skies and objects within the skies and a throne above it, don't be surprised. That's basically how the Quran describes the world. The sky is the lowest heaven. So the sky that we have above us is, according to the Quran, called the nearest heaven or the lowest heaven, or literally the heaven of the earth. Heaven and sky are used interchangeably. They are the same thing. That is the first heaven. This sky is, according to the Quran, a ceiling in which there are no cracks. That's how it's supposed to be, because it is a solid, firm ceiling that Allah built above us. He holds up the sky. If you came until here and everything looks very laughable, very ridiculous, I have to tell you, this is exactly what the Quran tells you. He holds up the sky. So according to the Quran, Allah built the sky above us, and it is He who restrains the sky from falling down on us, and with His mercy. And He also holds it up without pillars that we can see. This is the might of Allah, according to the Quran. Allah also sends rain down from the sky. Yes, in the past, people had to find explanations for certain things, like where rain comes from. Nowadays, we know that rain is in a cycle of evaporation, goes up, comes down through the clouds again, goes underneath the earth. Some of it evaporates, and so on. According to the Quran, Allah sends rain down so we can grow things on the earth. The sun and the moon follow each other. This is literally what the Quran describes. It says that the sun and the moon are constantly following each other, and Allah subjected them to us. According to the Quran, the sun also travels to a resting place. It goes indeed, it travels until it goes to a resting place or a stopping point, literally. The sun will also rise from the west one day. This is not in the Quran, this is in the Hadith, and the vast majority of Muslims believe in this. In the Hadith, Muhammad says that the sun goes somewhere at night and comes from the other side in the morning, and one day it will not come, but it will rise from the west, and that is a sign of the day of judgment. It doesn't make any sense if you actually think about it, but you're not supposed to think about it. According to the Quran, stars are missiles and also an adornment. Allah created the stars in our nearest sky and also uses them as missiles in order to throw them at rebellious devils who try to go up and snatch information that is sensitive between Allah and His angels. Allah created humans, fine. Allah created jinns. In the Islamic mythology, there are also, besides humans, other creations called the jinns who exist with us on this very earth that we are on, and who at night or at a part of the evening go outside to snatch people's belongings and children and so on. If that were true, you would have to be able to track that somehow or see things, float through the sky without any explanation. Unfortunately, that is not really happening. Allah created humans and jinns just so they worship Him, as the Quran says, and He does whatever He wants. But He also created many of us for hell, and we are bound to go to hell. We have hearts with which we do not understand, and we are basically less than cattle, as the Quran says. He created death to test humans, despite creating us all just so we worship Him. And He created death to test us, despite the fact that He determined everything before He created us. Everything that we would do, everything that we would say, everything that we would decide, our eventual destination, if we would go to heaven or hell, and so on. Despite all of that, Allah also gave us free will. Don't ask me how it works. The Quran says it so. But despite all of that, Allah also guides and misguides whom He wills. Yes, the Quran also says that. Another contradiction here. Allah cannot guide and misguide whom He wills while giving humans free will. Humans cannot have free will while Allah guides and misguides whom He wills. The Quran also says Allah rewards those who believe and Allah punishes those who disbelieve. But then it also says that nobody can believe unless Allah wants them to believe. Here again, you are supposed to make the connection here between the two. You are rewarded for believing, punished for disbelieving, but nobody can believe or disbelieve Allah unless Allah wants them to believe or disbelieve, which simply is incoherent and self-contradictory. Allah also is the same God who sent the Torah and the Gospel, which are books that are described in the Quran, which, however, do not exist in their actual form if you ask Muslims. Unfortunately, the Quran is entirely ignorant about the contents of the Torah and the Gospel, which are a big refutation of Islam on their own. It also claims that Jews and Christians were at some point guided, but then they went astray. It never explains how exactly and why exactly and when this happened. Finally, everyone must convert to Islam. Otherwise, we will, of course, go to hell. It is our eternal duty to convert to Islam, unless we were created for hell. And it is Allah who created us for hell, and we cannot believe unless Allah wants us to believe, in which case we just have no way out. If it doesn't make sense to you, you are correct. And finally, the Kaaba is the first house built for Allah. This is the Quran's claim, despite the fact that we have no history of the Kaaba until the emergence of Islam. Allah sent Muhammad as a final messenger, not just as a messenger. Final messenger in this sense means there is no more messenger after him, and Muhammad is supposed to bring the end. The Quran also reminds us repeatedly that the end is very near. And finally, there is one hadith, one authentic report according to Islamic sources to point exactly that out. According to the authentic reports, and this is testified by multiple sources, a person asked Allah's apostle, Muhammad, when would the last hour come? Thereupon Allah's messenger, Muhammad, kept quiet for a while. Then he looked at a young boy in his presence, and he said, if this boy lives, he would not grow very old until the last hour would be established. So according to the authentic source here, Muhammad, when asked when the last hour will come, looks at a young boy in his presence and says, before this boy grows very old, the last hour will be established. I would not want to argue that this boy did not get old, that he is still getting old, that he still lives somewhere, but we just do not know. It is very obvious to me that this boy was a regular young boy in his presence. Muhammad made the claim that the world would end before this boy grows very old, and it simply did not happen, which is why there is no reason to trust Muhammad. Based on all of the incoherence that you have just witnessed, and based on the very clear evidence here that Muhammad is not very reliable as a prophet, I conclude that Islam is false. And with that, I would like to say thank you and stay away from Islam.
You got it. Thank you very much for those openings, gentlemen. And I want to let you know, folks, if you haven't yet, if you have friends who love controversial debates like this, consider sharing this debate with them. You can click that share button down below, and that way you can help spread this neutral platform, as our goal here at Modern Day Debate is to provide a level playing field for everybody to make their case. So with that, we're going to jump into the 6-minute rebuttals. Muhammad going first. Thanks so much. Muhammad, the floor is all yours for 6 minutes.
All right. I'm going to address the Shahada at the end, okay? But I'm going to begin with all the other points that Ridwan here made, and I appreciate that picture you drew. You know, I'm sorry, like you yourself admitted something about that picture. But so now the first thing that you're doing is you're making a difference between what God is and what Allah is. Allah is just Arabic. As you know, Allah is Allah. So God has many titles, names, which is Ar-Rahman, As-Sami', Al-Khabir. They all start with Al. The ones that I said is the forgiving, the hearing, As-Sami', and the knowing. So if you're going to go with the point that Allah starts with Al, so the first word is the, La is God. So there's one God. That's the same God that's feeding me and feeding you, Ridwan. So there is no difference between that God. The other point that you made was the definition of Islam. Everyone isn't, like, their body is a Muslim. It's them as a human has to they have to recognize the fact that they've submitted to God, because there's a verse in the Quran that says أَسْلَمَ لِلَّهُ مَنْ فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَمَنْ فِي الْأَرْضِ كَرْهًا وَطَوْعًا وَكَثِيرًا مِنَ النَّاسِ. Those are two verses that I put together. So the first verse is everything in the skies and the lands have submitted to God. And then the other one is everything in the skies, in the lanes have submitted to God willingly or unwillingly. And a lot of, that one is يَسْجُدُ لِلَّهِ مَنْ فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَمَنْ فِي الْأَرْضِ وَكَثِيرًا مِنَ النَّاسِ. So the other verse is that um, everything in the skies and the lands have already subjugated themselves to God and a lot of the humans. Okay. So your definition of submission is lacking. The other thing is everything in the Quran is true. You said that yourself. When God said that he put his throne on the water, that's where he began creation. And there's many theories that are backed by natural philosophies, or I mean like natural sciences, that say that, all living creatures came out of water. As God said in the Quran, all living creatures came from water. So his throne starting on water kind of makes sense. And everything is fed from water. Everyone is, and that's another verse that's in the Quran. Everything is everyone takes the same liquid, which is the water. Earth is not the world, the word, sorry, one second. Oh, when God is talking about the skies and the land, he's not just talking about planet Earth. He's talking about the actual lane that we're walking on. So when you're talking about when God created the earth and the skies, he's not just talking about, the lane in the skies. He's not talking just about planet Earth. He's talking about matter, and then he's talking about the skies at that point. You're right, but you're making like you're having a fallacy in a sense where that that the heavens and the skies are interchangeable in English, but in Arabic it's the same word, which is sama. The word of heavens that's not accurate to what the Quran is saying, because to us the heavens is the sky. So God created 7 skies, and God is talking about the skies that's in front of you and the skies on the land. Now your argument about the flat earth, God says in the Quran clearly, وَالْأَرْضُ وَمَا طَحَاهَا. The word taha is coming from like back in Arabia, when Prophet Muhammad used to be around. They didn't have chickens like we had today. Like the idea of the chickens didn't reach the Arabian Peninsula. They had ostriches that lived in Saudi Arabia at the time, of where Saudi Arabia is now. And their eggs was an oval shaped, like it's like the same shape as the earth. And they would say that egg is mathuh, like that's the same word that they describe. That egg is the same way they describe the earth. And actually people at the time of Prophet Muhammad would question him, what do you mean like the earth is like a egg shape, like an ostrich egg shape, which now we can clearly see that it is. So that flat earth concept is not accurate. So when God is saying he holds up the sky, he's not physically holding it up with his hands. If I can by my mind, say for example, hold this pen up with my mind, right? So I'm the one who's holding it, like, by just giving the thought, like, this pen's hold it up, and imagine my hand's not there. God's doing the same thing with the sky. He is consciously aware that the sky is being lifted up by him, but it doesn't necessarily needs to be by his hand. He's a God. He can move you, like move me, from one side of this room to the other without anything being present for us to see physically. So now when you're saying that, sorry, I made a note, but I had to write so much because you put so many points, which I would like to talk about them all. A meteor. Okay, so the idea with the meteor, with people know that when the Big Bang happened, the stars didn't necessarily start shooting right away. Okay, so there has been a time until it's like a fuse, and when the star loses its energy, that's when it becomes a shooting star. And in one of the verses, the jinns that are hit by the stars, which those stars are predetermined when they're going to go. So God knew that the jinn is going to come at that point to listen to the higher, like to the angels to steal the world. But that star was already predetermined that it's going to hit. It was just the jinn was there at the right time, at the right place for that star to hit him. So, and the point that I'm going to back up from the Quran, and this verse, when the jinns themselves said, we used to be able to sit on the skies and listen, and now those who are trying to listen are hit with a star. So there was a point where they were able to listen until that timer, the fuse is up, and now they're getting hit by stars, so that they don't know what's going to come. They can't tell, because the angels are able to foresee the future where the jinn couldn't. Now, I would like you to see the verse when you're saying that the sun and the moon follows. Actually, there's a verse in chapter 36 that's saying that the sun cannot outpace the moon. So like the sun cannot come close to the moon, which is very clear. As for the sun going from the sun coming out from the west, that's a prophecy. Obviously, that didn't happen yet. But when it does happen, at that point, it's too late for you. But scientifically, you could we know that if the earth slows down in a certain speed, at a certain rate, like slows down its rotation at a very slow speed, where people are not affected and falling left and
30
right, and
seconds
earthquakes are
left.
not happening, they can turn back and go the other way, and the sun will start rising from the west. So God, with his ability, can slow down the rotation of earth and start it the other way, and then the sun rises from the west, and at that point your point is moot. Missiles, yeah, the predestined, I wish I could remember what I wrote there. Unseen, jinns cause you emotions and thoughts, the ideas of them stealing things and going into the physical world. At that point they have a bond with God.
Time.
Sorry,
We
he said
will
a lot of
have
things.
open dialogue, so you'll have a chance to address some of these other points, Mohammed. But just
Sure.
to keep on schedule, we're going to kick it over to Apostate Prophet for his 6 minutes as well. Go ahead, Apostate Prophet. The floor is all yours.
Thank you so much. Well, first off, I want to say, the opening statement that Mohammed made, I don't understand what it had to do with whether Islam is true or not. I think the opening statement was all about Abraham was a good submitter, liberalism is pretty bad, and Islam is pure, and nations are blessed, but America tries to vilify Islam, but religions like Islam and stuff like that, prevail. I really don't understand where exactly the argument here is that Islam is true, and where exactly, I mean, where, on what premises, on what arguments, on what kinds of evidences do we build the idea that Islam is true in that opening speech? I'm trying to look if we have if we mixed up the title of this debate, but I'm seeing here that it says, is Islam true? So I just don't really know what to respond to there. Islam is as a religion, the religion that Muhammad started in the 7th century. According to Islam, it was started way before that. It was the first thing out there. According to us and everybody else, it is a religion started in the 7th century, delivered in the Quran, which is, according to Islam, the authentic word of Allah, which he directly delivered through an angel to Muhammad. And everything that you read in there, in that text, has to be true in order for Islam to be true. And the tenets of Islam are not just, this is a good religion, and others try to make it look bad, but it's not, and so on. So I really don't know what to respond to there. But when it comes to the rebuttal that Muhammad just made, first off, I would not agree that Allah is the same God as...
Wait. That's not fair. You're talking about my opening statement.
Hold on.
I can do whatever I want.
It is technically the rebuttals. You can address whatever you'd like.
Yeah.
So there's never any agreement earlier in terms of what could be addressed.
Yeah.
So it's okay next time if you want to say what you want to specify what can be talked about, but otherwise I've got to kind of let it fly.
Yeah, no, sure, I understand.
All right. So I would not agree that Allah is by any means the same God of the Bible, or that he is the God. First off, we have to establish what the God is. I can argue that there is something that created everything, but I would have to really, define that. Islam defines its own God. That God has a history. That God says, according to the Quran itself, that he is the one who revealed the Quran and for whom the Kaaba was built, for example. Allah might mean El-Ilah, and it might have formed into Allah, which means the God, but Allah is also the distinct name of the deity of Islam, whereas the name of the Abrahamic deity, for example, is not Allah. He actually has a name that is the Tetragrammaton, Yod-Ha-Weh-Ha, which is Yahweh, as we say it today, or otherwise. Some people say Yehovah. The Islamic God has nothing to do with that God. The Islamic God simply adopts things from that God through Muhammad, who didn't understand the biblical religion at all. You said everybody is a Muslim, even those who don't know. I don't understand what that point is supposed to convey. The Quran says that only those who believe are Muslims, and those who are not Muslims will go to hell. You said that the verse about water is that the Quran merely points out that everything was created from water. Unfortunately, that's a modern pseudoscientific interpretation, an eisegesis of the Quran. That's not what this is about. The Quran literally says that there was only water, Allah's throne was above it, then Allah created the earth, and then he created the heavens. Now think about it. If heavens refers not only to our sky, but to everything, to the entire universe, then think about this for a second. There is water, right? And Allah's throne is above the water. Allah then creates the earth for us and spreads it out. And then he creates the skies, meaning the universe, all the galaxies and planetary systems and so on. That doesn't really make sense because the water is what we have on this planet. Unless you want to say that there is some eternal water that the entire universe is built on, which is just a very strange claim to make. I said that the sun and the moon follow each other according to the Quran in Quran chapter 91, I believe. Not sure which one that was. I can check that later on. I should have this somewhere here. He then said that the Quran clearly says that the sun and the moon cannot overtake each other. I agree. It does say that. I just don't understand how that refutes my point. My point is that according to the Quran, the sun and the moon follow each other. They follow each other. In reality, they don't follow each other. The sun is at the center of our planetary system. The planetary system is built around the sun, while the moon revolves around the earth. So the sun and the moon not being able to overtake each other would not refute that point. On the contrary, it would just support my point even further, that the Quran paints a strange picture where the sun and the moon just, are two balls in the sky that follow each other. When it comes to the sun rising from the west, yes, I said it is a prophecy. According to Muslim belief, according to Muhammad, the sun will one day rise from the west. But that again is distorted here by Muhammad. He says that could happen when the earth just stops spinning and then, turns around. But we have a very, very clear report in which Muhammad explicitly describes that the sun actually every night goes to a place where it worships and asks Allah to rise again. And one day it will not be given permission to rise, and Allah will tell it to go and rise in the west. That is Sahih Bukhari 3199. And then that morning, the sun will actually literally go back and rise from where it set, which
30
is
seconds.
an actual physical moving of the sun, which is full of ignorance. And when it comes to the Quran being shaped like an ostrich egg, the Quran literally just says Allah spread the earth. It has nothing to do with an ostrich egg. And no Islamic scholar in the past interpreted it as such, except that we do it today. Thank you.
You got it. And with that, we're going to jump into open conversation. Following that, we'll have short closing statements and then Q&A. This is a live debate, folks. So if you have questions, you can add me in the live chat with your questions or super chats. Go to the top of the list. And with that, thank you very much, gentlemen. The floor is all yours for open dialogue.
Ridwan, I think you're failing on a point on what submission is and what Islam is. What is Islam to you? To you, is that just believing in God and the Day of Judgment, or believing in that Prophet Muhammad that's the only key to be a Muslim?
Well, according to Islam, you have to believe in Muhammad, in Allah, in the Quran, in the last day. You have to basically follow the religion called Islam. That's what being a Muslim is.
Okay, so when Moses said to his people, just be patient while Pharaoh is doing what he's doing to us, and be patient and rely on God if you are Muslims. And the word that he said, in kuntum muslimun, if you are Muslims. So why would Moses call his people Muslims? Because the point that I'm making before you give me your understanding, the point that I'm making is that Muslim, the word Muslim, has a standalone meaning prior to Muhammad. Do you agree there?
I completely agree with that. But according to Islam, Abraham himself, the Quran has a verse which says that Abraham was neither a Christian nor a Jew. He was a righteous submitter. He was a Muslim. The word Muslim is one who submits, which comes from submitting to Allah. But within the context of Islam establishing itself as a religion, from then on, somebody who is a Muslim is someone who submits to the true religion. Anybody else not.
So now I want to take you back to your point that you talked about the Shahada, because in chapter 29 of the Quran, it starts Alif Lam Mim أحسب الناس أن يتركوا أن يقولوا آمنا وهم لا يفتنون ولقد فتنا الذين من قبلهم فليعلمن الله الذين صدقوا وليعلمن الكافرون. So which الذين صدقوا الذين يكذبون. Sorry, I'll have to pull it up to say properly, but in context, it's saying that did the people who said that they believe, they say that they believe, did they think that they're going to be left and not tested like we tested those that are before them? So obviously the Jews say they believed, the Christians say they believe, and now we have the 21st century Muslims that say they believe. But God's very clear when we're saying that, if we're just going to make the hypothesis that the whole Quran is truth, so anyone who's going to say he believes, either as an individual or as a community, they're going to be tested the same way those that were tested before them. So now, if you look at before you interrupt me, if you look at the Jews, they have the Torah and then they have the Talmud, and they use the Talmud to explain what the Torah is, but the Talmud has more contradictions than the Torah. And now, if you look at the Christians, for example, the Christians have two things that happen also with the Muslim community. Paul the Apostate came and he wrote a bunch of stuff and he attributed it to Jesus, which, like, it doesn't make sense for what Jesus would say. And wait, sorry, let me get to the point that I'm going to make, and then I'll give you your time. You asked for 6 minutes to talk. Let me just finish the point. So now we have Paul the Apostate that wrote a bunch of stuff.
That was actually part of our format with the rebuttal, which you also had. I don't understand why we're talking about this right now.
Okay, well, I'm trying to explain to you where the truth is in the Quran and what a Muslim is. So God already said that he's going to test us like we were tested before us. The Jews failed because they put another things and attributed it to God, which was not true. Okay, and then the Christians did the same things. They attributed books that were not from God to God, right? And it's very difficult to show them their wrongdoings from a Muslim point of view. But the Muslims fell into the same traps such as, okay, and these are the traps that you picked up on. It doesn't mean that Islam is not true. It means what they're learning is not accurate to what's the teaching or what is being revealed in the Quran. I'll give you an example. When someone draws Prophet Muhammad, right, the whole world goes crazy from the Muslim nation and they go stand up for Muhammad, which is rightfully so. They have to, okay? But if someone sits there and talks about Noah for an hour and a half, the Muslim community is quiet, yet the Quran tells you do not distinguish between the messengers. So that's a test from God that they're failing in. And why? Because they're falling into the same categories where Christians sit there and they talk about Jesus the whole time.
We are in the open discussion section. We are supposed to have an open discussion back and forth, not give long speeches. I just don't understand what in the world does this have to do with the topic? Why are you bringing this up? I really don't get it.
Because how does going back to the point, what is submission to you? What is submission?
Why are we talking about that?
Because I'm saying what people are doing in the 21st modern century is not aligning to what
I don't care about. I don't care about that. I never brought it up.
That's what you're calling as a Muslim. That's what you're labeling as a Muslim. I'm telling you, Jesus.
Okay, but I never brought it up.
Abraham was a Muslim and Muhammad was a Muslim. So the people that we're doing in the 21st century, what you're thinking is representing Islam. I'm showing you that it doesn't by the Quran.
Okay, I don't understand the point. When did I ever say that Islam is false because of the Muslims today? I'm not. It has nothing to do with the topic at all.
What you're defining as Islam is what started in the 7th century with the school of Muhammad, which in the first 200 years was the best school ever that the world ever seen. You could see the progress. You could see the singularity. There was a nation from Spain all the way to Afghanistan. That was one big nation that succeeded. But like every other curriculum that came before it, corruption took a part and politics took a part, and it fell apart. That's normal. That's how God tests us to see if we were actually being honest or not. So the whole thing of your whole concept of trying to attack what people perceive as Islam is in 21st century based on what happened after the 7th century, that doesn't explain what submission is. Again, Ridwan, what is submission?
My entire point here, all my arguments, all my premises, which I basically really I didn't even put into. I mean, I didn't establish like a whole series of premises and arguments and therefore this and that. I made it very simple. I brought up things that the Quran says, things that the Hadith say. Nothing that I said, nothing that I presented here is just stuff that Muslims randomly picked up and that is not found in the fundamental scriptures of Islam. So I am arguing that Islam, based on all the ideas that it offers in the Quran and the Hadiths, is false because it says a lot of things that are self-contradictory or simply untrue. It is as simple as that. And people sometimes tell me that I'm doing a very hard job. I don't think it's a hard job at all. I think I'm doing something very simple. I'm pointing out that the Quran and the Hadith have a lot of nonsensical claims which can be pointed out by very simply by anybody, and I'm just doing that very simple job because nobody wants to do it. And you are now here talking about how my image of Islam is wrong or of Muslims is wrong because I'm interpreting. But what does it? What does it matter what submission is?
Because we're talking if Islam is true. I'm not talking about 21st century Sunnism and what people preach about Islam.
I don't care about 21st century Sunnism. I care about the fundamental sources of Islam. The Quran, the Hadith, and the beliefs presented therein. Do you agree that I say that if those are wrong, then Islam is false. If those were all true, Islam could be true. This has nothing to do with defining.
But it goes back to the point where you're making contradictions implications of you not understanding the topic at hand because you do not know what submission is. So, for example, when you're saying that that God is creating people to go to hell, it's not God created people to go to hell. God created the people and gave them a choice, and they're going to hell by their own choices. They chose to be criminals. Okay, so there is free will at play, but because you have free will, God is giving you the correct way to deal with that free will. So Islam is all about the proper choice to make at the right time when the decision needs to be made. So when the ultimate question is there a God? Islam is giving you the answer. Is if someone's upsetting me, Islam's giving you an answer. Islam is about being like, we don't need to debate what honesty is, do we? We don't need to debate what awareness is. We don't need to debate what justice is. And this is literally what submission is to submit to those things that further you in life. So your idea of Islam.
Good topic. I want to ask you a question. So
Appreciate
I don't believe in Islam, right? I firmly believe that Islam is false. If I die the way I am right now, believing that Islam is totally false and ridiculous, actually, then I would be, by Islamic standards, condemned to hell and punished there in brutal ways. That's what the Quran says. It's undeniable.
Correct.
But why do you think I don't believe in Islam?
Well, because you're saying, well, the fact that you're sitting here causing doubt.
Okay, but why do I not believe in Islam?
You don't, because you took those choices upon your own.
Okay, but why did I make the choice not to believe in Islam?
Because you put yourself in the circumstances to cause doubt. And when you're causing doubt, you're more likely to fail.
So I put myself in the position to cause doubt. I had doubts, but right now I don't believe in Islam, right? So I firmly believe that Islam is not true. I came to the conclusion that Islam is not true, right?
Did you do that conclusion on your own?
What does that even mean?
Did you make that decision on your own? Did you come up to that solution by your own?
Yes.
Did someone force you?
As a human, I questioned. It didn't make sense to me, and I concluded, no, this can't be true. So Islam is false.
Okay, and God did say to Moses that He's making a test, that the day of judgment is coming, and I'm about to, like, I'm gonna make it seem like it's completely concealed. So you witnessed upon yourself today. Like, if I'm writing your story, Ridwan today said that he witnesses that judgment day is not true, Islam is not true, and that's the end of the story. So you made that decision. So now when judgment day does come around, okay, you made that decision. Why would you blame God for the decision that you had?
Pretty simple. Doesn't the Quran also say, as I presented in the, I think that was actually a very, big central part of what I was arguing there. I said that Allah created humans. He determined from the very beginning, before He created them, what they would do. He created humans just so they worship Him, and He created many of them for hell.
What's
cannot
worship?
Understand. So,
what's the word worship?
So I want to ask you here. Allah creates me.
Before we carry on, let's get to this point, because
determines from the
important.
That's a change of topic.
What's worship? No, what's worship? You're talking about God created you to worship. What's worship to you? What's in Arabic? What's that mean?
If there was a God, if there is a God, if Allah was true, it would be to acknowledge and to serve Him, or to
So what's the word worship?
Worship. Well, I don't know. What do you want from me? It's worship. Worship. Acknowledging and talking to Him, submitting to Him. That's it.
No, okay. Submitting to God is one point. Serving God is what worship is. So as I said in my opening statement, God makes a difference between ibadah, prayer, and giving charity. He said they were only ordered to serve me, to pray, and to give charity. So as you can see, the prayer in giving charity is separate to what actual worship is. You're a human being on earth. This earth is obviously in front of you. You have a duty on earth to make this world a better place. If you don't, you're a criminal.
This has nothing to do with the topic.
But that's literally what Islam is. Like, Islam
is about nothing to do with the topic. You're getting into these
brother. You want me to define. You're defining Islam in a different way. You want to go into a political sense.
Okay, you just told me. You just told me that if I don't believe in Islam, then I will go to hell. I asked you, and you confirmed that, right? So why in the world are we talking about the semantics of what worship is? I'm telling you, if I do not believe in Islam today, if I don't believe in Islam is.
Let's give Apostate, or go ahead, Apostate. We'll give you a couple of minutes just to be sure there's no interruptions.
I today have the choice to believe in Islam or not. Right? Believing in Islam means I acknowledge that Islam is the truth, that this religion is true, that Allah exists, that the Quran came from Him, that Muhammad is His messenger, and all that stuff. I choose, however, not to do that. I say Islam is not true. The Quran is not the word of Allah. There is no Allah. Muhammad is not his messenger. The things said in there are not the absolute truth. It's wrong. There are two options here. I believe in it and I worship and I become a Muslim as much as I can, or I reject it because I simply do not believe in it. We don't have to now establish what worship means, what submission means, and all that, because this is what we are talking about. The semantics are entirely irrelevant.
But
Do
wait,
I believe in it
can you,
or do I
can you
not believe in it?
One sec. Let's
how
just give
how
EP
you're
a chance
rejecting
to.
No,
something
I'm
you
done.
don't
I'm done. It's
Anything
fine.
else?
I'm done. It's fine.
Gotcha. Go ahead.
I'm saying like how you're rejecting something that you don't understand. So you're rejecting the Quran, you're rejecting Islam, you're rejecting faith, you're rejecting the Day of Judgment. If those are concepts you don't understand, you're rejecting purely on ignorance at this point.
I have no idea what that has to do with the topic. And again, I just don't believe that
Be-
these things are true,
Ridwan,
and therefore I'm a
Ridwan.
disbeliever. That's it.
Yes, you are a disbeliever, but because you have not yet understood what the concept of Islam is. You don't understand the concept of Islam. إذ قال ربك لإبراهيم أسلم قال أسلمت وجهي لرب العالمين. When God told Abraham submit, he said, I submit to you. I
Are
agree with you.
Christians Muslims?
If a Christian stops saying lies about God and saying that 3 equals 1 or that Jesus is
So
God,
okay,
at that
so
point he's a
so
Muslim.
short answer, no, they're not Muslims. Are Jews
That's,
Muslims?
no, brother. It's not a short answer. Even
It
in
is a very
and
short
that's a point.
answer. Christians do not do these things that you just said. Therefore, they are not Muslims. Very simple.
But brother, there is a verse in the Quran that states multiple times. من الذين هادوا والذين ناصروا والصابئين من آمن بالله واليوم الآخر لا خوف عليهم ولا هم يحزنون. From the people who are Jews and Christians and a different sect of Abrahamic religion as well, those that believed in God and did righteous deeds, so they worked correctly. Okay, they did good for the world. They don't have fear, nor are they troubled on the day of judgment. I'm not sitting here to say that
if
Christians
Christians did that, they would no longer be Christians, they would be Muslims. So the question, are Christians
Exactly.
Muslims, is answered very simply by saying, no, they are not Muslims. We don't have to go into the rest of it.
But
The second question, are Jews Muslims?
okay, so there is a difference between a Muslim and a mu'min. So there's Jews that are Muslims, but they're not mu'mins, they're not believers. But we can't call them what you're defining as the 7th century Islam, because they haven't accepted the prophet. Because if a prophet comes from God, you have to accept him. But they're still submitted. Because like, for example, there's a verse in the Quran that says, don't say that you're a believer, say that you've submitted. And then when the faith comes in, then you're a believer. So it's the same thing with the Jews. They've submitted to the will of God, but they haven't believed completely. It's like, take, for example, someone who's a bodybuilder. I can technically be a bodybuilder if I go to the gym and do one exercise and take the protein. But someone who's more dedicated, he has a better body. And it's the same thing with submission in Islam. Someone who's more dedicated in serving God is closer to the truth. It's not all Jews are going to hell. Not all Christians are going to hell. If someone is dedicating themselves to God and couldn't, because of their programming, and God is someone who's aware, he can allow him to go to heaven. I don't think all Jews and Christians in this day and
I don't
age
understand
go
that
to
has
hell.
anything to do with the topic.
Again, I go to the point, you don't know what submission is. You don't know what Islam
which
is.
has nothing to do with the topic. If you are, let's say that we disagree about the specific details of what exactly submission is. I don't really care, honestly. What we are talking about is if you believe in this religion that we have or don't believe in this religion that we have. If you believing in this religion that we have means acknowledging its message, and not believing in it means not acknowledging, but in fact rejecting its message, denying its message. I deny its message simply because I have a brain which Allah created according to the Islamic religion, with which I came to the conclusion that this religion cannot be true. According to the Islamic religion, according to the Islamic tradition and the Quran, it was Allah himself who determined way before he created me that I would, with the capabilities that I have, which are completely 100% in Allah's control, come to the conclusion that Islam is not true. If I then go to hell for this, then that means I basically go to hell based on what Allah decided for me long before he created me. Whether I make a choice in this life or not is entirely irrelevant, because the choice that I make was by definition necessarily also determined by and decided by Allah long before he created me. Everything that I do was necessarily decided by Allah. So
Actually, everything is pre-programmed by God. Everything has a predetermination by God, a predestination. Everything is predetermined by God, and you made your choices. So, for example, for me to like put my hand in a fire, I get burned. Okay, I can't say God burnt me, right? Because I'm the one who put my hand in the fire. You chose to take the route that you had. You always, in any decision you have two choices. You are the one who personally first took the choice to cause self-doubt to yourself that the Quran is not true. And instead of fighting that doubt, what you did, you gave into that doubt.
okay,
So the next step.
let's say that putting your hands
So
in the
next step.
fire. Let's say you put your hands in the fire, right? Right now, imagine that you are standing there and you put your hands in the fire, literally. Let's just talk about it literally.
But you have a warning before you put it there.
Okay,
by the way,
okay,
because it burns it before you touch it.
Okay, you put your hand in the fire, right? When you put your hand in the fire, is this something that Allah decided before he created you, or is it something that is completely outside of Allah's decree?
No, God decided that you have the hand. God decided what you are able to do with the hand. God decided what fire is. God put the fire in front of you. Your decision, that connection, that's 100% up to you. But God already programmed that if you do that connection, this is what's going to occur. Think of it as a pre-programmed computer.
So Allah did not decide that I would put my hand in the fire.
God didn't order you. God allowed you. There's a difference.
I ask you again. So you're saying Allah did not decide that I would put my hand in the fire.
That's your decision. That's your decision. God decided to allow you.
Okay.
And you made the decision to go with it.
Okay, can you answer my question? Did Allah decide that you would put your hand in the fire? Yes or no?
No, that's your decision, your action.
So Allah did not decide it. That means Allah did not decide everything that would happen before he created everything.
No.
That means you're denying the fundamentals of Islam and denying one of the pillars of the Islamic faith.
You don't understand what I mean by God.
Yes, exactly.
1 second. I'm saying to you, you're not understanding what I mean by God didn't decide it. God didn't order you, nor did he push you to put your hand in the fire. God decided what happens when the fire touches you. God decided that you have the ability to touch the fire. You made the connection on your own. So when you go to hell, you have nobody to blame except yourself. It's not God putting your hand in the fire. No,
that's not what I asked, however. I didn't ask that Allah.
You're asking if God.
I didn't ask if Allah programmed it or whatever it is. Did Allah decide that I would put my hand in the fire?
No.
Was that a decision that he made? Was it determined by him? Yes or no? No. That means that Allah did not determine everything, which contradicts with the
your decision
with the pillars, with the basis of Islamic faith.
Wait. I think you have a problem. I think you have a problem with an assumption and a determination. So God already determined the world around you, but God already assumed every single action that you're going to make. And it's a godly assumption, so it's never going to be wrong. He put the fire in front of. He put the fire in front of you. He didn't determine it. It's like a sandbox in front of you. Okay, he's the one who determined the laws that are around you. He determined the programming that's around you. But you're the one who's putting the input. Well, there's a verse. Oh, well, ma sha Allahu ma abadnahum. So if God willed, we wouldn't have been worshiping the angels. They're just making an incorrect assumption. They're going they're connecting the dots incorrectly. You have a free spirit. You have a free will. There's a programming in front of you. Whatever road you take, the end result is no. Because people before you took the same road and went in the same path and took the same result. You chose the road of humility.
You're simply distorting your own religion. You're distorting your own book. The Quran says that Allah determined everything. He knows everything. He wrote down everything. He decided everything. And Muhammad says, according to the Hadith, that before he created us, he wrote down and decided our aftermath, decided what we would do, whether we would become wicked or believers, whether we would go to hell or heaven. And the Quran even says, this is actually one of the pillars, one of the pillars of faith, of Iman. You have to believe in that in order to be a Muslim according to the Islamic tradition. And the Quran says, let me quote it. In fact, the Quran says that nobody will believe unless Allah wants them to believe. It is not for one of you to believe unless Allah wants you to believe. This means
Wills. Insha. It's not once. Insha.
That is
So
literally the same thing. If you
no, it
say
isn't.
wanting to do something, that's insha.
No, insha means that the person put the right input. So God, because God said that if someone puts X input, he becomes a believer. It's not someone who's a criminal becomes a believer. They have to put the X inputs. So you have the choice to put in the pot what you're gonna eat. You can't put in the pot apples and then have a blueberry pie. And that's what that means. God wants you to be a believer, then he's going to put you in a situation for you to be a believer, and it's up to you to decide to do it or not. And everyone had that same choice. We gave them the both roads. So you in front of you is always two roads right now. And I promise you this, Ridwan, if you think about it, contemplate and find a reason to believe in God, and you go into the path of repentance, which I think is going to be very difficult, but God is willing to guide you. I mean,
So
difficult
let's
for you,
establish let's establish this. I don't believe in Allah. I don't believe in Islam because I came to the genuine conclusion that Islam is definitely not true. Right? I, with my capabilities, with everything that Allah created for me, with my environment, my upbringing, my brain, the mind that I have, the intelligence, everything that I have, I came to the conclusion that Islam is definitely not true. In fact, I am so convinced by it that I find it an important mission on my behalf to go out here and to tell people, hey, Islam is nonsense, guys. It is false. It's definitely not true. Look. So with everything Allah has given me, I came to the conclusion that Islam is false simply really because I don't believe that it is true. But I will be punished for that in the afterlife because I genuinely could not believe that Islam is true. So that means I will be punished for being ignorant, for being
100%.
stupid, or for being blind, one of those things, which, by the way, are entirely out of my control because I am purely the creation of Allah, and He decides exactly my environment, my upbringing, my brain, and so on.
No, because you're being sitting in hell thinking to yourself, you know what? God gave me fame. God gave me money. God gave me X and X. What did I do with it? I went on the chain of bigotry. I went on the chain of hate. I hated what God revealed to other people. I didn't think it was from God. So you made those decisions on your own.
I spread hate against the things that God did because I didn't believe that they were from God.
You spread hate against people who believed in God.
First off, that's a lie. But secondly, even if I did do that, it would be that
spread hate.
But secondly, it would mean that I spread hate against something that I believe to be definitely false, not something that I think that I know is right.
But exactly, that you made the decision that it's false. It doesn't mean that you're saying is the truth.
Yeah, did I willingly do something evil?
Yeah, at that point you're willingly doing it.
Did I willingly do something that I know to be evil?
Yeah, because you took the choice on your own. You're not empathetic enough to see the butterfly effect that you're going to do. Because every choice you make has an effect.
That would mean I have to know that it is evil, what I'm doing, which means I have to know that Islam is the truth, and which is why I am spreading, discontent or hate or whatever it is against it, knowing that it is evil to do so. But we just established that I clearly believe that Islam is false and nonsensical and dangerous.
So it's a nonsensical argument when you're sitting there insulting.
That means when I refute Islam or mock it or say it is dangerous, then I am not doing something that
you don't understand.
Had nothing to do
with
the topic.
How you're refuting something you don't understand?
Can you please let me make the point?
Yeah,
that means I am refuting something which I clearly do believe is not good. So I am not knowingly
something you don't understand.
Exactly. That means I am not doing something knowingly evil. I'm doing something without knowing that it is evil. That means I am not doing evil. You didn't take the time
to listen.
You just contradicted yourself so many times within that 1 minute.
No, the contradiction is coming from you not being able to listen. Your problem here is not the comprehension, it's being able to listen to someone else. You're making an incorrect choice. Someone's telling you you're making an incorrect choice, but you don't like to be told you're wrong. So you keep pushing along the same road until the pain hits you, and then you're going to think about it again. So
I don't feel like killing people when they tell me that I'm wrong, but
what do you mean? War existed before Prophet Muhammad and after Prophet Muhammad. War is something that's normal in everyday life.
Yeah,
so aside from that point,
we don't need it today. But
what is Islam? We don't need war today.
We don't
Wait,
need
wait.
we don't need war over people telling you that your
Okay,
religion
let's
is
talk
wrong
about
or
some
something like that.
prophecies. Let me
But
let me
but
tell you about some
okay,
prophecies in the Quran is true.
before we move on from that, let me
Go ahead,
quickly,
then.
please let me speak for. I'm completely put off again from that point. Okay, let me speak until I'm done here. Just a few seconds, not more than a minute.
Do you want 6 more minutes?
I just want you to reflect upon that. Oh, you're offended because I stuck to my agreed debate format. Wow, amazing. So
How am I offended? I'm asking you if you want 6 more minutes, man. Like,
it sounds weird. I thought you were offended about that. I don't know. This is the
no,
second
man.
time you bring it up.
Listen,
So
but
look.
because
So okay, whatever. So I asked you. I clearly established that I don't believe in Islam because I know that it is false, right? I sincerely do not believe that it is true. That means that whatever Islam tells me is good, I don't think that it is good. Whatever Islam tells me is evil, I don't think that it is evil because I don't believe that Islam is true. I am 100% convinced that Islam is false. Whether I understand it or not is entirely besides the point. Now I sit
Ridwan,
here. Now I
I'll
sit here.
I'll bring it to you in a different way. I'll bring it to
Didn't we just agree that you would let me talk until I'm done for less than a minute? I sit here and attempt to refute Islam, mock Islam, and point out that it is dangerous. But we just established that I don't know that it is true. Yet when I asked you whether I am doing something that I know is evil, you told me yes. How in the world does this work? If I don't know that it is true, and if I don't know that dissing it is evil, then how am I doing something that I know is evil?
because put the concepts of Islam to the side. Do you know what the hurt principle is, for example?
Nothing to do with the morality that Islam presents to us.
Ridwan, that was not my question. So yes or no? Do you know what the hurt principle is?
You mean the harm principle?
The harm principle. Sorry, the
Yes,
harm
sure.
principle.
Yes, I know.
Right? Okay. So Islam takes it the next step. It's not about the harm principle. It's not just about causing harm. It's about oppression. Okay. So you are oppressing more than you're helping.
Yeah.
That's why you are a criminal. It's got
Okay.
nothing to do with Islam. Because as I said, there's people who are Muslims before Quran, before Muhammad, but you're not understanding that concept. You're going with why Islam is dangerous. Islam, like Prophet Muhammad's school of philosophy, is to eliminate temptation, while Jesus' school of philosophy was to resist temptation. In the long run, eliminating temptation is a better approach, because if you have a bar in your city, for example, if you have a bar in your city, and if you take the style Jesus took, where you're going to go sit with the people who are drinking and trying to help them and trying to show them, if you're not as certain and sure as Jesus, in the long run, you're more likely to follow the person who's hurting you. Okay. But in Muhammad's school of philosophy is that no, we need to remove this bar from our community because this bar is going to hurt our community. It's got nothing to do about like that person's individual. It's about the whole community. And I don't know what your like full-time job is, and I don't mean this as a hit, but there's certain things you learn in life, and it's how to manage a team, for example. So managing 3 people is one thing, but managing a whole community is a whole different animal on its own. So you're sitting there laughing,
Mohammed,
but you put yourself in a
Mohammed.
political position. You're going to have to take means that for you it's not going to make sense. But he's
Okay,
seeing the
with
longer picture.
with all due respect, I really don't think that you understand that you understand the logic here, that you understand what is being said. I really don't think that you can actually respond to what is being said because you don't understand it.
What you're saying is that using the Quran
my sincere suggestion would be, after this debate, if you want to find somebody who is not a Muslim, not biased, who is probably a professor of, I don't know, debates of philosophy, sit down with them, show them this debate, and tell them, did I understand him or not? What was the problem? And let them criticize you. They will tell you one thing: you are not responding to anything that I said because you're not understanding.
If I repeat your point of view, would that mean I understood you?
You did not repeat my point of view. But look at this.
Wait. Answer me. If I repeat the point of view that you said,
no, I just let you speak for a long time because I just wanted to. I wanted to let you speak.
Gentlemen, we have to have 1 second. I just want to jump in because we have to have, if both of you are speaking at the same time, then they can't hear either of you. So I just want to be sure. We just gave AP a good amount of time, so we can give you about a minute, Muhammad, to respond, and then we'll go back to AP.
Okay, so AP is saying that my way of judging if someone is evil or not is through the Quran. If he's a person that rejects the Quran, rejects Islam, right? So him being like rejecting the idea, why would he think that what he's doing is evil? Because he's not putting himself on the same standard that what I'm seeing the world as to be. Is that correct?
I don't know if that's correct at all. I'm completely lost for words right now because this is the weirdest debate that I've ever had.
Because I'm coming to you from a different angle.
No,
You're expecting me to sit here and talk about Sunnism.
Oh my God. Okay, so let me say this again. So you said to me that when I established that I don't believe it is evil to criticize Islam, but I asked you whether I am doing something that I know is evil, you said yes. Then when I said, how can I know? How can I do something that I know is evil if I don't even know that it is evil because I don't agree with its ideas and its concept? You suddenly started telling me about how Islam is more than just the harm principle. It says not to oppress and not to do this and that. Okay, fine, everything wonderful. But you only define criticizing Islam and thereby oppressing people as evil because it is your Islamic religion, your Islamic philosophy, which teaches you that it is evil to oppress people by criticizing Islam. If I don't agree with your philosophy at all, if I think it is complete nonsense and we don't need that, then how in the world do I knowingly do something that is evil by criticizing Islam when in my philosophy it is not considered evil to criticize something that is false?
Okay, so at that point, the point that we're at that we don't have a common ground is you're saying that Islam is false.
Yes.
So you don't think it's an evil for you to criticize Islam,
Exactly.
even though Islam itself is saying you that is an evil, right?
Yes. Yes.
So the concept here, that the key word, and I don't know too much about you, Ridwan, but are you a believer of any religion or are you
No.
an atheist?
I'm an atheist.
You're an atheist. So in your world of view, and I apologize, and I want to be as kind as possible. An atheist doesn't have the concept of evil or good, anyways, because to you, from what I understand, an atheist has is we're just a bunch of atoms that are fucking put together, and here we are, kind of thing. So, like, the concept of evil isn't something that you can compute, nor can you calculate it, nor does it have empirical values. It's not something that you can measure. So, the concept of evil and good isn't something that you can measure.
Well, fantastic.
Just because purely because you're an atheist.
Fantastic.
Number one, and don't take offense in that. Is that your answer?
Okay. Number one, being an atheist says nothing about whether you have a concept of evil and good or not. You can be an atheist, which means you don't believe in God, while following different philosophies which may or may not have a concept of good and evil. So that is entirely besides the point. But thank you, secondly, for making my point also. If I, according to you, don't have a concept of good and evil, then that means that I cannot know that it is evil to criticize Islam and to vilify Islam and to tell people that Islam is dangerous. So how in the world can I be doing something that I know is evil and therefore be punished for doing something that I know is evil?
Because now there's certain things that we don't need to debate, which is honesty, right? So there's nobody talking here about, like, debating what honesty is. We all know what honesty is. It's being honest to yourself. So if you are debating something that's hurting a group of people, right? Like hurting them onto a point where you're getting death threats, which I could see why, you understand? So that means you're causing a lot of pain by you throwing the first stone.
Wow.
So
So let me get this straight. I should know that what I'm doing is evil because I'm criticizing a religion so much that I get death threats, which should show me that I know that it is oppressive and bad. But you think when people preach Islam, including that Islam should be imposed on us, or that apostate should be executed.
I took it to the highest point. Hey, there's no complaint.
Hold on, just
Wait,
hear
wait.
one at a time.
Ridwan, you're
Wow.
saying that Islam, so for a Muslim to be a Muslim, he has to kill you for apostasy?
No, I have
that
never.
true?
I have never, literally never said that, and don't believe that. I've never proposed the idea. It has nothing to do with this at all.
So hold on, you said that Muslims have to kill apostates, right?
No, I didn't say that. Never
Then
said.
make your point again.
Okay.
Make the point of apostasy one more time.
many Muslims believe that Islam should be imposed, that Islam should be turned into a state religion, that Islam should play a role in society, which means it necessarily interferes with our lives. And according to the Islamic tradition, it is also imposed that apostates, meaning people who leave Islam, should be put to death. The details of it are debated among Muslims.
Okay.
If by your
So why
if
are
we
you
come to
going
your
to the
standard,
extremist? Why are you going to the extremist point of view as a way to
you
disprove
would
what
probably
Islam is?
understand me if you just let me speak for one goddamn time.
I apologize.
So if we apply your standard and say I should be knowing that I am doing something evil or oppressive because I'm doing something so bad that people react to me strongly, then we should also apply that same standard to Muslims who want to establish Islamic societies which are oppressive and authoritarian, and to Muslims which want to establish Islamic societies where apostates like me are executed. And we should then say that they knowingly do something evil, which is why they should be punished for that. That's what I'm getting.
Ridwan, who's trying to establish that and where it's working?
You
Tell me
think-
one country. Tell me one country where Islamic Sharia law is like the Islamic Sharia law that Sunnis preach.
Should I tell you?
okay?
Should I tell you one country that is in which Islam plays a role in the government, and in which Islam is influential?
Not it plays a role in the government, because even nowadays we could see the Christianity playing a role in the government in a state country like America. So tell me a country where
Okay,
it's
what is
100%
the
theology, theocracy. Sorry.
that is a ridiculous expectation to make. I don't know.
Why? Because the first caliphate, the first Islamic caliphate after Prophet Muhammad, that was a theocracy. That wasn't a political state.
Okay, let's take them for example. Let's take Muhammad for example. Muhammad established a society where Islam should rule. It should be the government, right? The caliphs after him established a caliphate, which people now refer to as the Rashidun Caliphate, the rightly guided ones, which are an Islamic society which spread Islam by inviting people or otherwise fighting them and spreading Islam. Now, Islam rules the society, right? People are then under the moral laws of Islam and must fully obey it. But a lot of people are hurt by that so much that they would rather die than submit themselves to that, which means...
How are you making that assumption?
Which means... I'm sorry, are you telling me that people lovingly said, "Oh, come and make us Muslims,
it's not about,
come take our country"?
Brother, it wasn't the fact that you're talking on a general perspective, like you have the voice for everyone that lived in those nations.
I do not. I never made such a claim. Are there people? Did people resist the Islamization?
Did certain people resist? Yes. But did they all put to death? No.
Okay, fantastic. Was never my point. If you listen to me, that was never ever my point. You told me,
but you made it seem like it was an oppressive nation when it was quite the opposite.
Yes, you are telling me that I am being oppressive by criticizing Islam, and the evidence for that is that I get death threats. And I'm telling you, but by that logic, Islam should be, or those Muslim societies should be considered oppressive because they spread, but people resist. So that means if people resist, then that should be evidence that the Muslims are knowingly oppressing people and committing evil. This is your standard, not mine.
Because you got to look at the reality. Push everything to the side. You got to look at the reality. Someone is trying to impose a way of life at any point of time in reality. Even now, right nowadays, we're having a fight with Western liberty mentality, liberal mentality. So someone's always trying to impose a way. So why won't we have the right in this game of chess to play our moves like everyone else is playing our moves? Being a Muslim doesn't mean you're submissive to everybody. It means you submit it to God. And in the way of oppression,
it has nothing to do with the topic. We're jumping to something completely different again. The topic was whether I am knowingly committing evil or not. That is the topic. And
but it's hard for you to gauge what evil is when your sense of morality is very
Exactly. I don't believe that it is evil to criticize Islam. I don't believe that there's anything wrong with it. I don't believe that Islam is true. I don't believe that Islam is good.
So
how can I be judged by that standard then?
Because I can go back to Futra, which is the natural aspect of the human being. I have an easy question for you. There's 100,000 man-made religions in the world, but there's one right religion, and that religion is peace.
How lucky.
Do you agree?
No, I don't.
You don't agree that peace is the way?
No, that's complete gibberish. I don't even.
Okay, you want to talk? This is gibberish for you, but now let me hit you with some verses. the word sharia. شرع لكم من الدين ما وصى به نوحا والذي أوحينا إليك وما وصينا به موسى وعيسى وإبراهيم وموسى وعيسى من قبل أن أقيموا الدين ولا تتفرقوا فيه كبروا على المشركين ما تدعوهم عليه. Shara, God inscribed to you what he inscribed to Noah, what he inscribed to Muhammad, to Abraham, to Moses and Jesus, to be one community, abstaining one nation, okay, and do not divide. And people who wants to cause division, those are the criminals.
Yeah,
You
and
in the hand,
by
you're
your
not coming to
standards, and by your standards, that means we should impose Islam because Islam is what is peaceful. And if we don't accept that, then we are evil. And
I'm not saying we have
that
to
is
put
that is. I mean,
your concept of Islam
it
is
is
very
really
skewed,
funny.
man.
It is really
Your
funny that
Islam,
you don't see the irony of this. Do you think Islam should play a role in the government? Do you think a society should be an
100%,
Islamic society? Okay, so
100%.
that means you want to impose Islam.
Brother, it's the understanding of what Islam is. I'm
Oh
not
my
going
God.
what. Yeah. You see, Ridwan, this is who are you calling on?
Okay, so
You're saying, "Oh my God, who are you calling on?"
it is how language works. It's a figure of speech.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
sorry. I'm
But
sorry if you
doesn't
have
that
difficulty understanding
hold
that.
on 1 second. This is
No,
my point.
that's not an
There's
argument.
a
I don't even
point.
want to
There's
go
a
into that. That
point.
is a ridiculous
There's a
statement.
reason.
1
You're
second,
saying it
gentlemen,
without
gentlemen,
meaning.
gentlemen. Hold on, just to be sure that we can
I
hear
said,
both
"Oh
of
my
you.
God, therefore Islam is true." See?
No, you said, "Oh my God," therefore that you don't mean what you're saying. So when I'm telling you, you do not know what submission means. It's under the same thing. You think you understand what Islam is, but you don't.
Okay,
Because
case in point, Islam is true because I said, "Oh my God," case
no,
closed. And
you
end of
don't.
topic. I lost. Islam is
It's
true. I admit
thank you.
because I said, "Oh my God."
Yeah, yeah. Because naturally you believe
Oh,
in
God.
God. But anyways, what I'm trying to say is that something is a very simple concept. You're picking up and choosing certain things in the Quran that can be answered to you, which you choose not to accept. But you're missing like a whole big portion of the Quran. When Moses is called a Muslim, when Abraham is called a Muslim, when God's telling you to ponder about the Quran, when Jesus is literally asking his people, "Are you guys Muslim?" So what's Muslim to you? What's Islam to you? Because if you want to just talk about how Shias and Sunnis look at the concepts of Islam, trying to protect their communities from outside influences, that's a whole different conversation.
Okay, you
But what's the
complained about
definition of Islam?
you complained that a Saudi preacher was arrested, right?
Correct.
What was he
Because
arrested for? What does he believe in? What does he advocate for?
he said that the people who are bringing in certain Western ideas and making concerts to show that how feminine men is an okay principle in our community, this is not what we've been taught, and this is against what we've been taught, and this is not something that we should be okay with. And that's why he
Fantastic.
went to jail.
So, and you feel very sad for this guy. You think this guy had the right ideas. He wanted to preserve an honest Islamic society. So let me just establish a few things and to check with you if you are, if you agree with that.
Got to go to the. I've got to. Is this something that might fit in your closing statements? It doesn't have to, but otherwise,
Sure,
if
yeah,
you are
sure,
at that
whatever,
point.
yeah, sure.
Let's jump into the closing statements. Ladies and gentlemen, the Q&A is coming up pretty quick right after the closings. But first, we'll start with Muhammad with your closing statement. The clock is set for 4 minutes. The floor is all yours.
I believe my opponent has a lot of hate and bigotry towards a concept that he doesn't understand. There are some valid points that he makes when how certain 21st century Muslims approach the idea of Muslims, and they have extremist point of view, which is not correct. But for the last 20 years after September 11, my community has been undergoing a lot of demonizations. We're in a position that's very similar to the Jews pre-World War II that are right now concentration camps like there are in China are set up that would kill a bunch of Muslims. Most of the world wouldn't care because we have been demonized for the last 20 years. You're adding to the hate. You're not helping it. But you as a person don't understand what Muslim is or an Islam is, because when I'm asking you, how is Jesus a Muslim? How is Moses a Muslim? How is Abraham a Muslim? When the word definition of Islam, you don't know, which is submission to God. So sitting there talking about political differences and how we're trying to save our communities from certain influences that we don't agree with, you're sitting there and buckling up real quick and you're going to certain things that don't matter in this conversation. Because the matter is, people are getting hurt. We are in a very difficult position in the world. And the same administration that went and bombed Iraq, saying that they had weapons of mass destruction, failed to produce the weapons of mass destruction. That's the same administrations that said that a bunch of Muslims went and destroyed the towers on this very day 21 years ago. And we've been under that radar and under that gun for the last 21 years. And for you to expect us not to be harassed and not to say something about it and not to act in extreme ways when we don't have the resources, when we don't have that certain political power and the sway in the world, for us not to react to people who are hurting us and criticizing things that we very love. It's not about insulting our mothers. It's not insulting, you're insulting literally the word of God to us. And whatever, if someone calls himself God, he's saying that, he's technically saying that I'm worshiping him. And if you're saying that what I'm saying is false, that's fine. But to you to sit there and make a mission about it, to destroy us and what we believe in, then at this point you are an enemy. And this is how it goes. This is what the reality is. And welcome to the world, my friend.
We'll
Good job advocating for terrorism.
We'll jump into the closing statement for Apostate Prophet. And want to remind you folks, a couple of things. In particular, we hope you feel welcome no matter what walk of life you're from, whether you be Muslim, atheist, you name it. Thrilled to have you here. If you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button. And with that, we're going to go into AP's closing statement.
First off, I want to thank Mohammed very much for briefly advocating and justifying Islamic terrorism for all of us here in front of our audience. I hope everybody can sit here and look behind the disgusting face of playing the victim and see the advocacy for Islamic terrorism, for Islamic violence, which should be eradicated in this world. Yes, I'm a bigot. I'm a bigot, as you can see. I'm apparently a bigot, therefore Islam is true. The closing here was all about a political appeal to please feel sorry for us because we are good. If you don't feel sorry for us, then we might hurt you and kill you. Sorry, but that's just what we do. Unfortunately, it has nothing to do with the topic, which is Islam true? Maybe we should have agreed to discuss the topic, is Islamic terrorism justified? In which case, my opponent would probably say yes, and I would say no. Or he would say no, because when we do it, it's not terrorism. But to the actual topic of whether is Islam true? Oh, yeah, despite the fact, I also want to point out the obvious here. He said that he talked about extremism and how we have a misunderstanding of Islam and all of that, whereas he clearly advocates for a society in which Islamic law is established, and all the people out here who are free, who go for individual freedoms, who enjoy individual freedoms, would be oppressed and possibly put to death in brutal ways. That's what he advocates for. That is the original Saudi Arabian tradition that the Saudi Arabian preacher wants to go back to, for which he was arrested because he is inviting these stupid concepts of freedom and liberalism and all that. The West is heaven for Muslims. The Islamic world is darkness for everyone who is not a Muslim, and also very much for Muslims, which is why half of Muslims want to flee, even if it is by illegal immigration. Yes, I'm serious. Look at the recent polls by Arab Barometer. So
they're bombing the shit out of us.
But when it comes to the actual topic of whether Islam is true or not, we can very clearly see that Islam is false. We have established it here. Muhammad said ridiculous things. The Quran says ridiculous things. None of it can be justified. Muhammad made a prophecy that the world would end soon. It obviously didn't end. And it cannot be opposed by a Muslim apologist who instead sits here and wants to justify violence in the name of Islam. I think that says it all very much. Thank you, everybody, and stay away from Islam.
Well, by the way,
there was a closing speech.
I got to go into the Q&A. I do have to.
Thank you.